Daniel. This session may not have some sort of filming because I'm expecting it to be highly interactive.
That's okay. We'll still
It may be going on and off. I may be doing some things with the groups.
as long as I can hear you, it's okay. Good afternoon. My name is Daniel. Welcome to Orchard Park Secondary School, home of FRC Team 2056. If you have any questions throughout the day, please feel free to ask me. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, William Neal, presenting Community Building for Team Sustainable.
So good afternoon, one and all. It is hoped that this session will be highly interactive, as the topic is community building, building vibrant communities. Maybe we can even build a vibrant community in the room here before we're finished. We'll see. I think we're already pretty much most of the way there with this group. We'll see. So there's my original title screen. You'll notice a big Ontario. And this is about building vibrant communities, but not only just with Ontario. We also have Quebec with us here today. And we're so happy that the teams, like there are 3 teams from Quebec represented, or
At least two.
2, okay. Oh, I was thinking about 3990. I saw them on the list today.
Yeah, you could have been.
Yeah. So, and of course, we have Brazil here today. They were not in this session, but there are 2 visitors from Brazil who are only here for a week, and they are on an FRC team in Brazil, and they're following in the brother of Fernando, who many of you may know. The brother Nicholas is here with his wife Janina. So please say hi to them. Make them feel most welcome, like you always do. Anyway. Hi, Thomas.
Do you know what team they're from?
I think it's 18. I keep on forgetting. 1860. I don't want to say 1960. Anyway, it's 1860. So there we are. So that's what our discussion is about this afternoon: building vibrant communities. And the hope is that this is a highly interactive sort of thing. Building a community doesn't happen with one speaker. I'm really happy that we have a room that by default encourages collaboration. All of the other classrooms I've been in so far today remind me of a distant time in memory. Almost every classroom I've ever come to, the first thing I do is arrange the seats in a way that's more conducive to collaboration. So this is really a very happy sort of development for me that we're in this classroom today. So some of the rationale for this talk, the success of teams, as we've seen in this morning's talks by Thomas and Martin, that the success of teams is often linked with the strengths of their communities. Now that can be thought of within the team, as we heard from Martin, and also between teams, as we're hearing from Thomas. So I'm thinking of the very big overall picture here. What are some of the elements that we can include in a system that will really help our teams in Ontario to be sustainable over time? And I think it's been well said. There's something about Ontario. We've already taken a lot of the culture of First to heart, and it's this culture that we have in Ontario that has allowed us to get this far. And I think we're going to need to redouble our culture in light of the increasing complexity and erraticness of global forces that are underway. Our world is undergoing an immense change right now. I think you will see a collapse of the old ways of doing things and the rolling out of a whole new carpet, so to speak, a whole new season of humanity where collaboration crosses all limitations. So let's be at the forefront of that. I think First is well positioned to take advantage of the changes that are afoot in our world. So then one of the questions and rationale that we might ask, how may we further strengthen this culture of building vibrant communities? And, oh, hello.
Hi, sorry.
Most welcome. Everyone is welcome.
Oh, no, it's okay. Streets okay.
Further strengthen this culture of building vibrant communities in Ontario and beyond. One thing I would love to do is to do some events with Quebec, as we were talking about at lunch. It would be amazing. So we'll see where that can go. So there are some really rather special features of First Robotics. and just reflecting a little bit about this to set a little context for our discussions this afternoon. Where else do you have a system where development of character qualities is at the core of what's happening? And I really don't see it happening in many schools. There are some schools that are strongly focused on character. Many schools and many community groups are more about what we're doing, not how we're doing this. And yet FIRST is very much about how we build our robots. We do so with gracious professionalism, and we cooperate as much as we compete with everyone. And that has enabled us to achieve really great things with a small number of people. So we can actually think about this systematic development of character qualities that is enabling us to build the vibrant communities. I also love some of the comments from this morning that we are defaulting in Ontario to asking what teams can do to build their community, how can we help each other, and in so doing, we're raising the quality of our own teams and of all the teams around us. So that's an interesting phenomenon to ponder upon and to take to heart and then to move to the next step. So we are most appreciative of this situation we have here. We have a vibrant community. What can we do with it next, and how can we move the world along with it? So I'm hoping that during the discussion this afternoon, you'll be able to share some of your anecdotes and thoughts and talks and things like this, examples that relate to this theme of building vibrant communities. So this is where I've put this little title down, Your Stories from the Field. I know we've already heard a few, and now I'm thinking in terms of not just team culture or not just local inter-team culture. I'm thinking about the big picture, the entire community of FIRST. What has created such a cohesion in our community that everyone is absolutely thrilled to be in a picture like this with everyone together? And I've been in part of gatherings where we have pictures like this, and everyone always says, "Oh yeah, it was so great. We all took a great picture together." And it just sort of makes a statement that yes, we are all teams competing against one another, and yet we are also building an amazing group of people. So I hope that you will maybe take a few moments to share some of your experiences from the community of FIRST. That is this collection of teams that transcends nations and transcends mindsets, crosses the lines between school boards, especially in Guelph now, yes, and creates connections where otherwise there may not be these connections. Is anyone some kind of example where FIRST has helped us to break over barriers, make new relationships, change the status quo? Aiden.
Yeah, so a few years ago, I went to this off-season event, STEMly,
Oh yeah.
and me and my friend, I met some people there, and we were like, oh, let's be friends, right? And so we all got invited into it. kind of like that. And we started a little Discord server, just say hang out, and then suddenly more people got invited, and it got to a point where now there's 400 people in there.
Whoa.
And there's people from Australia, and on our first teams, and it's from all over the world, and so we all play games together and stuff.
Wow. That's really interesting how that can grow so much. And Thomas.
I got added into that server, right?
Wow. You didn't even know it?
Yeah. So as students were announcing, oh, hey, I just got accepted to the Defense Discord servers or whatever. I'm across the street from McMaster's. I'm like, oh, hey, are you looking to mentor a team? Do you want to come hang out? And even if they're not interested in mentoring, it at least got them thinking about what their future technology might look like, whether they want to be a mentor figure in the future.
Wow. It's interesting. I was never added to that Discord server, but I was added to 7520's WeChat channel, which is all in Chinese, or it was 5 years ago. That was really interesting. Good learning for me. So that was really fun. So I'm sure there are some more interesting connections there. And I'll just give you one example of my very first event, the robotics competition in Windsor. I probably told a few people about it. I know I've told Thomas 20 times about it, but I apologize to Thomas. that we arrived, and of course we had no idea the scale of what we were involved in until we got to the event and we saw these robots that were highly refined compared to our bag of stray parts and a few wheels. So, but that didn't stop everyone. They, instead of like laughing at our robot and running away, they circled right around us, mustered up support, and within a very short time our bumpers were finished. They were actually on the robot turned on, and after 3 matches it started moving. And of course, the very first time it moved, it scored an own goal against 2056's own alliance, and I'm so sorry. But that's how I learned about 2056. We scored an own goal. But I think we were feeling so welcome that day by the community, and that transformed the lives of my students. They really loved it. They went back to the school, and they redoubled their efforts to launch the team off into the next year. And on September 1st of the following year, we had 30 students uninvited come right to the door and say, where's the robotics team? We want to join it. And I think that's an echo from the support they received in the Windsor event. Windsor, hey. So that's one of the stories from the field. But I think there's more to this than just the inter-team interaction. I think one of the most important aspects at first is right from the beginning, Mr. Kamen and Mr. Flowers, Dr. Flowers, I'm not sure their titles, but the whole organization was very deliberate about linking teams with professional mentors in the community. And that's the kind of thing I'm looking at. How do we make those kinds of relationships with post-secondary institutions, with school boards, with sponsors, with groups of people who have extra time and want to be of service? How do we make those community? It's like the soil in your flower pot. You might have a good flower, but without the soil, it's not going far.
My team right now is having a particular experience with First Global,
Oh, yeah.
because that opens up a lot of opportunities for us. And one of the things we told ourselves going into this, when we decided to apply and have a chance to do this, is we're going all in.
Wow.
So all the mentors, all the students putting all their efforts to represent Canada at the level it should be.
Yeah.
So contacting political figures, contacting companies, everything, we've done it. And at a certain degree, I think we've been successful. So at the municipal level, I went to a meeting that, it's called the Municipal Assembly for Montreal North, and all 5 elected officials had very nice words to say. And not only that, they were looking for more. So I took the opportunity and asked a director for the culture division that I knew beforehand. We could have robotics like this because my team is a school team, but as a community-based project. And he said, you know where my office is? Come see. So we've been preparing something for them. At the same time, we're only a month away from the competition, but we gathered the attention of the Chamber of Commerce.
Wow.
And this week they came to see us to shoot a promotional video that they want to share with their members, with the Chamber of Commerce, to, yes, help us, but also bring visibility. And they just literally said, like, if we knew about this project beforehand, we would have helped you guys. And the fact that we are at this level, they not only they help us, and they want to help us have more impact and more visibility and be known by the industry locally. They also want, they support us. Like the director of the Chamber of Commerce just came with the filming crew and said, you need to bring something back home. And that puts the pressure on the kids and builds the what we really wanted to bring them, that we are representing Canada and it means something, and we need to perform and up our game and do our best. So that's very in the last month or so that we went through all of those. But I think we can have similar opportunities if we treat our seasons and our teams as they should, because we're doing it because we represent Canada, but I think it should be even more significant with what we're living. We should be meeting the Prime Minister, I think. Yes. And FRC teams locally should have the experience we have right now, I think. It can scale up.
Yeah.
That's a certain level.
And that's the kind of thinking we need, this big scale thinking, because the means of material support are concentrated in ever fewer players in the game. And so if you do not think big, you don't always get the wherewithal to continue and sustain your teams. That's a really fabulous story, thank you. It reminds me of my 2018 season. In the middle of the build season, we had the first global team from Guyana come and join us in my classroom for a week. And they had won third place internationally at that point, and they're in our class. And so I have a few photos where I have my university students. I also taught like introduction to STEM at Western for 4 years at the Althaus Teachers College. And then I had my grade 12 students doing computer engineering technology and computer science, and the first global team from Guyana, all in the same space, building robots all week. That was way too much fun. But it also speaks to this transcendent nature of the first, when first shifted from being largely American-centric. In 1998, with inclusion of Team 188, we actually were involved as a nation in making that first step. When we think globally, it transcends all of these artificial limitations, and suddenly we have amazing things happen. So yeah, I hope that you will think of a few of these examples as we proceed along this afternoon and share some of the things that you've seen that have really made a difference in terms of the overall impact of FIRST and the overall community considerations. So I think I'm going to now call upon you. I have a few little quizzes that will kind of engage you to think about it, see if you can guess what's on the next slide kind of thing. So my next slide, if I recall correctly, because I did reorganize my slides from several other presentations, added more, updated. The next slide, if I'm estimating correctly, is about the principles of community building. And these are just a few thoughts, and these are not definitive principles, but these are patterns that I've seen in various academic publications and in practice in the field that speak to what are the overall concepts and ideas that are conducive to building a robust and vibrant community. So I'd love to hear, well, maybe in your experience, what are some of the things you're looking for in your students, in your mentors, and in your parents, for example, that make your team move forward and continue forward? Thomas.
First one that comes to mind is gracious professionals.
Oh yeah, GP. Gracious professionalism, it's interesting. It seems to be like an aggregate of some of the best human qualities out there. A commitment to excellence, a loving consideration of our peers and our colleagues and everyone.
It's similar to the, there's this one, it's 4 questions on Rotary members. They have these 4 questions. And it's the core tenets of Rotary.
Yeah.
Is it good for all mankind? Is it equitable for all parties, etc.? And those are the core tenets.
Oh,
GP is the core tenet, 100% for FRC.
Yeah.
And it kind of guides how we find support in our community.
I think it's really a well thought out term, as it somehow encapsulates numerous other human qualities. So I wouldn't call it a core principle, but I would definitely call it some kind of like transcendent or meta principle that builds up, and it just communicates the idea so succinctly in only 2 words. Like that must have, they didn't have AI at that time to do that for them, so I don't know how to do that. How do you think of that phrase? So the gracious professionalism, I think it's probably linked to a lot of the things that are on the slide. What else could we say? What are some of the words that would describe how your team is being successful engaging with the wider community and building a vibrant community about itself, not only within itself? Last
a willingness to learn. So it's really helpful if you're able to learn about your community, because different parts of your city and place that you live have different areas that have different needs.
Yeah.
And then another willingness to learn the fact that a lot of the time you think that the mentors are the all-knowing people, but a lot of the time you learn a lot of stuff with the students as well. And then you have a lot of students that need a willingness to learn to kind of start off, because a lot of students come with no experience before, and if they are not wanting to learn, then it's hard to kind of force or get them to be involved. But if they're just have an open mind and they're just there to have fun and learn something new, then that's the best way to kind of get them engaged and get them going.
I think that's a really important one. Our society has been built by extremely well-meaning people. And we have built up some sophisticated structures that organize our government, our schools, our industries. And one of the side effects when we build in the levels of complexity, the removal of the human context or the human connection. So for example, when you phone the bank, you're gonna get a robot. I don't wanna talk to a robot, I wanna talk to a human. And when you make an application, it used to be you might go into the front desk of a university and hand it in to someone at the front desk or something like that. Now it's all on computer, don't even see a human being. And that is a side effect of all of everyone's work here because we've been working at making amazing systems that become automations here and there, makes our food more accurately and flies our planes with fewer accidents. But we also have to remember that we are all human beings and there's something to be said about the human connection. So now coming down to this willingness to learn, a side effect of large systems can be a sort of a disconnect emotionally from what we're doing. So you get a passive approach instead of an active approach. I personally see that from the grade 6 to the grade 7 year. It's very common in Ontario for the students to take on a different demeanor and a different sort of mindset. And how can we, as a vibrant community, encourage this mindset right through to the end of one's life? That we are joyful, enthusiastic, willing to learn, and always looking forward to the next step. I think that's a really important thing for us to learn how to do. So part of our community building efforts must be thinking about those students in our neighborhoods nearby who are gradually coming up through maybe Lego League or First Tech Challenge and eventually joining our First Robotics teams. And questioning in 5 years, in 10 years, who are the people who are going to be on this team and how can we guide them and save them from the corrosion of this sort of apathy, which has a tendency to set in when civilization becomes a little too complex for its own good. So those are a few questions there. Are there any more principles that come to mind? We'll see what we can see here in the next slide. I don't know if you've actually, oh, hi.
I'm not sure, but honesty?
Honesty. I think that's huge. I don't think it's on the slide either. Mine's not a different place. But truthfulness and honesty, wow. If there were a foundation for a house, it would be truthfulness and honesty. Well, can you come to an example, like when that really makes a difference?
I like to think that most people wouldn't talk to somebody else and just tell them what they would like to hear, that they would be honest in some semblance of it. With, I don't know what's going on or what we're doing or what we're, not so much what we're looking for, but.
Yeah. I think that really brings to, oh, I lost.
So like building up honesty. So like back in 2022 after COVID, like there was a good chance our team wasn't going to start. So we were honest with the students and saying that we're most likely not going to run. And then the students that wanted to be on the team told their parents. And then those parents were able to make a big enough difference to get the team running. So without like the open communication or honesty with the people in the team, it's hard to kind of keep everyone, I guess, on the same page or just understanding of what the situation is.
Yeah.
Because there's always potentially someone that could come along and help the situation out. Where if you're just not saying anything, you're just being quiet because you want to keep it to yourself or just a certain group of people, then nothing might happen and you might not be or have an FRC team anymore. That's a very specific example, but kind of that one.
Then you won Worlds that year, right?
No, that was the year after.
Crazy. So yeah, very important things to remember, these principles. If there are any last minute guests, I don't know, but we'll see what this slide says. Maybe it's not even the one about the principles. We'll find out. Oh yeah, that's good. We have it here. Okay. Principles and aspects of community building. I'm going to reveal them all at once, and this by no means a definitive list. This was just sort of reflecting on, as I was saying, different publications, different stories from teams. Maybe I've missed one, and I definitely know that you already have mentioned a few that are on the list. One that comes to mind, though, and one that may be at the core of gracious professionalism, one part of it has to be what you call love. And there's a lot of misunderstanding about that word. We have this Hollywood romance kind of attachment to this word love, but I think this is a much more fundamental human quality where we're thinking about the well-being of other people and expressing different deeds and actions and words that really help to support other people. And when enough people do that in a group, then we get collaboration. They love each other enough to work in a group, and they trust each other, and they have enough truthfulness that they trust each other. As are you going to work together in a group of people who are lying to you about the safety or about their commitment? Or, well, if we are truthful and we love each other, we may collaborate. Here's one that really came up, though. I would love to see much more of this in the province. Redundancy. How does that apply to an FRC team? What benefit would there be to having redundancy?
Well, one example, our team was probably included in this. A lot of teams are very reliant on one or two mentors. So if that one mentor is sick or away for work or something, the team basically falls apart. I think we've improved on that as a team in the last couple of years, but that's definitely something I see a lot. And often that's because, kind of going back to the lovely collaboration, it's only a few people who are putting in a lot of time and effort. So they're the only ones who really understand the big picture of the team.
So I think this is one of the places we're at in Ontario, and I think it's something that each team could carefully consider. Maybe you have 2 or 3 really active and knowledgeable mentors at the moment. It doesn't take long for that 2 or 3 to become 1 or 2. And at the same time, if we are thinking really big, we may use the FIRST Robotics competition as a means to reach far into our communities, finding the pools of engineers, business people, retirees, grandmothers and cousins, or visiting whoever it might be, to be part of the team and calling on each of them to play a role. And that speaks to culture, a collective culture in the province, a culture of agency, a collection or a culture of individual initiative, and of feeling empowered to do something that is of benefit to others, and being motivated to do so by seeing the results in the community and seeing what's happening to youth who are participating. So this redundancy is a huge, maybe it should be the theme of the year, redundancy. And we maybe can help each other achieve this redundancy through such other concepts as covalence. I love that. So when we don't have enough mentors, as Thomas was mentioning here, we just like 2 neighboring atoms may share the electrons. And we may also share the mentors. And with the advent of online collaboration tools, that's very much possible. And I see that happening in Guelph, because Guelph recently started a rookie team in the other school board. Is that right? Yeah, so that's incredible. We have one representing the Catholic school board and the public school board. That's an incredible development. But it's involving a little bit of covalence, I would suspect, because they all came from 2609's original team. So how can we achieve this redundancy? Maybe both teams now can be systematically involved in reaching out into even more of the untapped potential in the entire city of Guelph, which is full of automotive and advanced manufacturing and all kinds of interesting businesses. And people who are done at 5:30 p.m. and just wondering what to do with their time now. You just have to find those numbers. Because they're probably watching a baseball game or just taking a walk in the park. They can see the sun in April or May after that intense part of the season is done. So I think capacity building is also a really great sort of thing. We see it here in 2056 Ways to Inspire. Not only are we able to share our ideas here, we have the 2056 students who are running sessions and seeing that everything is working fine. I love it when I see students being responsible for very important things. In my previous school, 2 schools ago, I had a grade 11 student who was the network administrator for the whole school. And we were able to do that because we were not subject to certain regulations about which students could be where, and he did it so fabulously. He took care of all the school's IT systems, and we ran 54 workstations off of 2 servers. He maintained the servers, he did all the networking, and then he went on a co-op to the hospital, and he was very excited to be involved in their IT systems. They gave him a clipboard and a pencil, and he went around to all the network outlets in the entire hospital. He was very happy to come back to the school and just be with the computers. Capacity building, though, giving people opportunity to do more than is expected of you at an earlier time. A great example is FIRST. Grade 9 students are highly capable after only a few months of being around all of these professional mentors and older students who have been through the process. So what an amazing sort of principle. I don't know if that's a principle, so to speak, maybe an aspect. We can debate whether it's a principle or an aspect of community building, but the fact that we are envisioning that we're building the capacity of people to take on key roles in our team. That could be a mentor, that could be the student lead who's by grade 11 and 12 now leading the grade 9 and 10 students. Succession planning is really easy when you have redundancy. And when you don't have redundancy and you weren't able to plan for the succession when a mentor suddenly moves to Australia or something, and you're done. That's where all of this kind of fits together. These next 2 points here, I think we can really ponder upon the dominant narrative in our civilization and the dominant mindset. Are we producing people who have the wherewithal to make their decisions that affect the rest of the community, and they have a feeling that they are able to do this? Do they have agency? And do they commit to these activities in such a way that they can see in the future what's going to happen? That all of these 20, 30, 40 youth who are in this team are now going to become leaders in the community, the leaders of industry, and creators of great inventions. I think having this vision of what is possible through FIRST, transcending through vision, will help us to get through the everyday barriers that stand in our way. Because the hardest funding you ever had has a lot of barriers, not only in the field, but just in the lead up, getting permissions from the school board, getting available teachers, working through this regulation and that requirement, and transcending through vision. Even in the most dark times, we see, no, we're going to get here. And if we have that tenacity, so to speak, and to transcend through the vision, the patience to work with it, we just assume the robotics team is going to move forward. We're just going to find out how. I think that can really help us. I think some of our teams that are not able to continue on maybe have fallen under the spell of those who would have us be passive and feel a little bit helpless. And then we have to turn to an authority for all of our major decisions, and we have to rely upon outside forces beyond our control to see whether we're going to move forward. That kind of thinking happens when society gets into very complex developments, and we can help to balance that out and show that, no, we can be responsible and have agency over our collective destiny and bring it into an amazing kind of situation and outcome. So there's a tenacity. One more quality to speak about, and I think this is one to speak about very carefully. Everything should be done in moderation. Moderation is desirable in all things, it is said. And sacrifice is a sort of a mysterious kind of thing. The Western civilization is known for its great comforts. Everything works. The lights are on, the water turns on, and the roads are paved mostly. And wow, isn't that amazing? I've been to parts of the world where that's not a given, and it's really very, very different in those sort of situations. And so in our world of comfort, the concept of sacrifice is kind of lost, because instead of enduring any kind of discomfort, we will pop a pill or just pull back or say, oh, I can't do that. So we want to have this kind of culture where all of this in FIRST is possible. It cannot be done without a certain level of sacrificing one's comfort and time. And yet I only say this very carefully because we want to have redundancy and we want to have a large number of people doing these things so that any one individual does not sacrifice their health to the point of losing their family relationships or even worse, having some kind of medical issue. And we've had a few in our community. A few of our mentors have had serious medical issues develop, and often in the build season. Oh, I've had a few hours of sleep in the last few weeks. Well, you need 8 hours of sleep and 7 at least, and you need to keep doing that. And if you're not getting your 8 hours of sleep and you're taking on all of the duress of the build season, you're going to have a medical issue. And you need to take care of that. But how do we figure out how to do that? So this word sacrifice is a two-edged sword. We want to sacrifice our time and comfort, but we also want to do so sustainably and in a way that is exemplary that other people would want to emulate. And so what a complex set of things in this picture, the ideal collection of people working together within and between teams and within the society, that we're able to have all of these things together that perhaps may help us to continue moving forward. So I would love to hear some examples, some things that are missed, maybe some anecdotes that are brought to mind by some of these principles being listed here, or aspects of community building. Hi,
Collaboration.
collaboration.
Not gonna talk about the kids, I'm just talking about the parents. We're a community team, we don't really have a mentor. It's a collaboration of all the parents, family, friends, to gather together to provide their expertise, provide their resources, and helping the kids to grow. And we're demonstrating that to the younger or to the newer member parents as well, and hopefully the community can grow even larger and better.
That's amazing. And it's a challenge, isn't
It
it?
is a
Being a
challenge,
community
for sure.
team, each one has its unique geographic location and connections with the wider society and situation, and it's a unique problem to solve in each case. How do we move forward? Oh, yes, Thomas.
I guess I can provide an anecdote about the redundancy and succession planning. So you mentioned earlier that sometimes mentors burn themselves out during build season. My mother used to be a mentor on robotics, and this happened with her. She ended up having a heart valve replacement in 2018 due to the stress that build season the previous year had put on her. She had to get her heart operated on. And at the time, we met out of my parents' basement. We had very little in the way of resources, and we had no succession planning. So during her recovery, there was no meetings, there was no nothing. Luckily, we had a few friends with Red Inferno, 3756, and that's who kept us afloat. But then the next medical thing that happened with the mentorship of robotics, we were prepared. We had learned that lesson. And building the capacity to have people in place strategically to take over if another person has to step back is probably the best way to build those resources. Because when I had to take a step back and feel like showing for my health, there were people there that covered for me. I was receiving Zoom call updates while I was at my chemo appointments, hearing from oh, Brian Wang has just organized the sponsored presentation or whatever. Right, I don't need to worry about that. I can focus on myself and come back with full strength to continue to sacrifice. So to any mentors who are like frazzled right now, just like take a break every once in a while, please.
That's very, very important. I learned that lesson the hard way when I lived in South America. I lived in the country of Guyana for 3 years. And I just saw such need in the community. As I was describing some of these things we take for granted, during my national exam for computers, the lights went out and everyone's data was lost after 40 minutes of coding and typing. And the water, I could tell, that's a whole other topic. Like the things, the duress that the everyday people were undergoing was very high. So I ended up not sleeping much, like 3 to 5 hours at night. And for some reason, the air in the tropics makes it so that's even possible. And besides that, the noise is so loud anyway. You're not going to be sleeping for much. But I took a very serious medical issue. I lost 32 pounds in 3 days. And no, that's not Weight Watchers. That is tropical organisms. And I almost died. I was very lucky. My good friend was a Canadian surgeon who took me away from the hospital. He didn't let me go. He said, "Where are you going?" I was, "No, you're going to my house." He took me to his house and made me recover there. So that, I think, is a case in point that, yes, you may want to be sacrificing your comfort for others. And it's actually quite comfortable to be doing that because you know that, wow, we're making an impact here, whatever we're doing, but we need to keep that in mind that there's a balance and there's a limitation. We are not robots, we merely work with robots. So I think in 2020, on March 13th, I realized, wow, that was the best sleep I ever had. I think that was March 14th, because that was the day we were supposed to be going to Carleton for the first FRC event at Carleton University. And I was already thinking, well, I wonder when I'm going to get some sleep. And I was actually feeling good. My son and his friend were mentors on our team. So they were going to take the team during 2 of the afternoons, and I was going to take 2 power naps during each of the days. And so I'd be ready to drive on the way back. So even given that, I was still feeling this is going to be kind of heavy. But I loved it because the students were so excited about the robot. It was ready to do its pull-ups, and it could do them fairly quickly. And we're just all ready. And, well, other things happened that shall not be mentioned. So I think the short of it is that had I continued on that pathway, I also may have had some issues with my health. Perhaps not as much as Guyana, but you really do need to get your good food and diet and sleep. And you can't photocopy yourself, but you can create a community that is resilient and able to step in and help when the help is needed. I think it's a really important sort of thing.
I have a story on this to share as well, but I feel like what connects like everything that's been told, and maybe you have a counterexample of that, but it seems like it always needs a catalyst. Like you can have those conditions nearby, but to actually activate this community thing, you need a catalyst.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, for my team, it was after the 2024 season.
Mm-hmm.
So when we came back from Houston, I, as lead mentor, stepped down and retired from first for 3 months. But during those 3 months, the team came together. The other mentors came together. They took the roles of lead mentors. The alumni started to come more and started to share more of the tasks.
Yes.
And by that time, I started coming back gradually until the next build season, where I participated, but in a different role.
Yeah.
So still very significant support for the team, but among more people, more tasks, more shared, more manageable for everyone, and arguably a better experience as well for the kids.
Yes.
But it took that catalyst where I was burnt out,
Yeah.
basically, and had to step down for a while.
That's an important experience to have, but hopefully in the case where it's only a minor burnout and only on the superficial level rather than a serious medical incident, which often happens.
I had a really good one for collaboration. In the Waterloo and Wellington area, you've been to the meetings.
Yeah.
We have a collaborative group of WW First, and it's been awesome because just on 2609's experience, this past year, a lot of our programming base, like mentor-wise and even student-wise, graduated, and our main programming mentor was focusing on his studies to graduate. So we had started from scratch, and we also had a really tough mechanical build season, like we extended all the way to the end. So there was like a good maybe less than a week and a half of actually program. But one of the big things is because of our collaboration in that area, there are so many strong teams around that Waterloo Wellington group that we were just able to kind of take the robot to the grass and just power through and we were able to get stuff done in like pretty much 4 days, and that was pretty fun.
Yeah, amazing when you have that sort of group to rely upon. I've seen a lot of interesting wherewithal that develops within the teams. As maybe as one team, you might be able to get a local sponsor, and that's great. We had a great sponsorship presentation this morning from Salim on 2056. And yeah, local is very great. The magnitude of the funds available may be limited. However, if you're 10 teams together like Waterloo Wellington, you can get such things as an entire field area sponsored, which has happened in the last few years. And hopefully, so when teams collaborate together, then we are getting much bigger outcomes. And I know, for example, around Hamilton, there were 10 or so teams that were supported by ArcelorMittal. That was actually, I found out how that happened yesterday. There was a very positioned school board member who reached out and was able to share that vision. And it was able to benefit not only the teams in that school board, but all of them. So I think this collective action makes a much greater scale of outcome. So those are some of the principles and aspects of community building. So I don't know what is my time here. We have about, it's about till 3 o'clock, right? Okay. So I would like to maybe engage everyone in some kind of exercise that might be a little bit interactive, and maybe we can do so in groups. So I think we have this concept of all these principles and aspects of community building. I'm going to talk about one more topic, and then with that in mind, maybe for the last little bit of the time together, we can come up with a reaction to a problem or a challenge. And maybe we can do that in small groups of 3 or 4. So I think we can keep that in mind when we go through this next exercise. So this next sort of topic in the conversation, it comes from my involvement in a school called Nancy Campbell. They had Team 8765. Not when I was there, but they started it. That was the first team that I was involved with starting when I joined First Canada back in September 2021. Their school's framework was actually developed in Bolivia, which is kind of interesting. You think, oh, is it Harvard or Oxford? No, it was Bolivia. And the educational framework was based on 30 years of sustainable development work, meaning not sustainable environmental development, but outright development in areas that were completely cut off from the big cities of South America, such as in Colombia. And actually, Bolivia, Colombia, all of those countries had the same kind of phenomenon. You'd have a large city, all of the economic resources concentrated in the large city, and then anyone who's growing up in the countryside looks around, sees no resources, but learns that there's a university with all kinds of things in the city. They vacuum up the countryside, and then there's very little capability that comes in the next direction or next generation for the rural areas. So to counter this, in perhaps the late 60s and early 1970s, groups in Bolivia and Colombia were working to create conditions that would allow for a community to be viable even outside of a big city. And they started to recognize capabilities in individuals and groups of individuals and even societal capabilities that would help to do this feat. So they're called the moral capabilities. And the moral capabilities ended up being developed at a university in Santa Cruz de la Sierra in Bolivia, and was adopted by my school in probably about 20 or 25 years ago. And it was kind of the starting point for conversations about student projects. There was a strong encouragement in our school to adopt projects that would have a real lasting community impact. Part of our program was to go and travel to different countries for 2 weeks at a time with grade 11 students and do community service with various populations, such as at orphanages or schools or other communities. So it would be interesting to hear from you some guesses as to what are these moral capabilities. I've asked you to think about principles and aspects of community building. These are at the principle level. When I'm talking about capabilities now, we're talking about actions that you take and skills that you have that can bring these principles to life in a sustainable way and can be spread around and can be part of a systematic process for building a vibrant community. So I'll start you out with the organization of these 18 moral capabilities. And when we say moral, we're not talking about Sunday at church kind of moral. This is a very general moral, doing what's right kind of thing. Because that word moral was a little bit of a challenge for some. They were thinking it was like a religious education kind of thing. This is much more a community-wide kind of sense of what is good for the community. So that's what they mean when they're talking moral capabilities. So another active guessing session. If there were 6 capabilities for an individual who desires to be part of building vibrant communities, what capabilities, what skills should you have? Yes, Lars.
Empathy.
Empathy. I think that's a really, really good one. Can you come up with a practical example? Like empathy is like you would call it a virtue, but maybe there's a kind of a way to express it as a capability where you're actually able to make a difference with your empathy.
So I guess in certain situations, there are teams that kind of work with youth from like different countries and stuff like that, and they need to have empathy, knowing that they come from potentially a more of a privileged background where they're able to attend school, they have potentially access to food all the time compared to people that they might be working with that don't necessarily have that.
That's very, very good, having empathy. And even in any kind of development situation, just like even on your robotics team, oh, I'm feeling so bad today, or get to programming your robot. I don't know if that's the most productive response. Maybe you could think, well, I hope have you eaten? Maybe you might want to take a drink of water. Maybe you can just take a few minutes of fresh air and then go to the programming of your robot. Like, let them know you've heard them, that you care for them, and then get them to coding, because you only have a few minutes. Okay, no, you can't do that. You have to be very sensitive and tactful and all of that. Hi, Michelle.
Integrity.
Integrity. So how can that be described as a way to practically keep your team going?
Well, on our team, integrity is one of our team core values. And you sign up, you show up, you say you're going to do something, you need to follow through with it.
Yes.
We really kind of try to teach that integrity on our team.
That's amazing.
Sometimes you need to make decisions that are the right thing,
Yes.
not necessarily what you want to do in the moment, but
Yes.
for the good of the team.
Hi.
Functionally, on our team, integrity is very much, I guess, financial, because often we're going to go for lunch, we're going to go for dinner, a mentor is going to pay the bill for everyone, and then they expect to be reimbursed. And we've had very good success with students just looking at the receipt. Okay, I ordered that, I'll send the reimbursement. And that way it frees up the mentors to basically keep doing this. It means that we don't need to plan as deeply about, okay, we're going for lunch now, we're going for dinner now, and make sure you bring cash, make sure you bring a credit card. Not every student has that.
Yeah.
So functionally, the integrity and the culture of integrity we have on the team has allowed us to have more operational freedom, I guess, in terms of that aspect of the team.
Wow. Oh, so that's really interesting. These ideas, they seem to tie together, and there are different words that are getting at the same sort of overall thing. It's hard to describe the overall human experience of these qualities and capabilities. So I'll go to the next slide. There are 6 personal capabilities that were developed in the university in Bolivia. And there are 6 interpersonal, and there are 6 societal ones. My school added a 19th one, creating a sense of beauty in every endeavor. And we see that in robotics teams a lot. Go to the pits, and it's amazing. I love to see beautifully constructed robots, the amazing team imagery, and all of the displays going on. There's definitely a sense of beauty being carried out in our community. But the personal capabilities, what do you do about yourself before you go and start interacting with others? Here are a few. Oh, so sorry. For those who may need a magnifying glass, I'll just go through them very quickly. Evaluating one's own strengths and weaknesses without involving ego. I want to program the robot, but you just learned Python yesterday. I just want to program the robot. Maybe you should allow the mentor and that student who's in grade 12. Anyway, you have to have a reasonable expectation. Of course, you're going to learn, but maybe you're not going to be fully exercising your talents right away. Transcending one's lower passions by focusing on higher purposes and capabilities. I think our community does that in spades. The fact that if there's an event at 8 a.m., at 6 a.m., there are students lined up and they have overcome their passion for sleeping, which is a universal teenager trend, and they want to be first in line to get in the door. We do not recommend that, by the way. We do recommend just sort of showing up at about the time when the doors open. So 5 minutes is
Good luck with that one.
Yes, good luck. So our community is very enthusiastic. We acknowledge that, but we also want to avoid incidents of frostbite and things like that. I was a little worried at Centennial a few years ago. It was cold. Managing one's affairs and responsibilities with rectitude of conduct. I think we were touching on that in 2 instances from some 20 and 80. Sorry, I'm mixing up 8089 and 9898 are both teams. And I think the teams also learn from systematic reflection on their work. And here's one, perceiving the significance of current historic events. I think something we have to understand, our society is in a state of disequilibrium. The institutions that have molded the current civilization are inadequate to meet the needs of a civilization which has transcended the borders. You cannot think in a national way when the entire world is affected by your decisions. You absolutely cannot do it, and the world will be in disequilibrium until we can rearrange the affairs of humanity more equitably and manageably. And there's lots of that on the news, and it's all politics, not into politics. I'm just into stepping back and observing the disequilibrium will settle down when we achieve a global sort of framework for harmonious coexistence and thriving. Thinking systematically and strategically in search of solutions. I think also robotics teams are naturally very good at doing this. Oh, the robot's not working. Well, why? Start the battery. Okay, we go to each element. Oh, is it the code? Oh, yeah, we should have turned it on. Okay, that's good. And so on. So those are the personal capabilities. I think we've also heard a few ideas during our discussions that speak to the interpersonal capabilities. These are the ones that with our own preparation, we now bring to bear in our interactions with other people. So here's where on our team, we can create a common vision of a desirable future. I think that speaks to the culture we were talking about today, the team culture of interaction, this covalence idea, the sharing all across the community. Also, the expression that these youth, if we start in grade 7, 8, and 9, by the time they get into university, they will be able to do these incredible things because we're doing such a careful job from 9 to 12 in our robotics team. And imbuing one's thoughts and actions with love. Gracious professionalism relates to that really well. And encouraging others and bringing happiness to their hearts. Those are sort of practical means of expressing these fundamental principles. And we see this really, really well done in our community. Taking initiative in a creative and disciplined way. I see a lot of taking initiative, like our team was notable for having aspiring engineers who wanted to be on par with Tesla and Einstein. Yes, that doesn't happen in a build season, maybe in 2 or 3, but yeah, you have to be reasonable. So you take initiative, yes, but it should be creative and disciplined in such a way that you can expect to get it done. So some of our mechanisms remained in the theoretical realm, even though they were partially implemented. They're most interesting to look at. Yeah. Sustaining effort, persevering and overcoming obstacles, that tenacity we're talking about before. We were really good at that as well. You're on in 5 minutes. What are you going to do? Get your robot moving. Well, I guess if we disable the mechanism, we'll tie it up with a few zip ties, we'll get it out of the field, and we'll play defense for 1 round. Great, solve the problem. And keep going. And participating effectively in consultation. I think this consultation notion is more than just talking about something. Our society is good at saying, oh, wow, there's a PhD in physics. Let's just listen to what this person said, or he's a medical doctor, or she's an airline pilot. We're going to defer to these experts. Of course, you need experts for certain things. In a group such as a robotics team, you need to also remember there's more than the engineering and the electronics and the coding. There's the community aspect. So valuing everyone's input is very, very important. All right. So I think maybe I'm going to save the last one for a little bit later. We're going to get us going a little now. I want to present to you a challenge, and I'll give a few minutes for us to prepare it. Based on some of the things that we've seen today so far, many of us have been in these sessions that are concerning with community building, and we've thought about our team culture and our inter-team culture, now looking at the very highest kind of 360-degree view from up in the air, looking at the whole community now. What are what is an action plan for your robotics team to move the entire community forward? So this might be an extension of this inter-team culture that we already enjoy. What's the next step to bring our community to the very highest levels of sustainability? And when I say community, I'm talking globally. And not only just Quebec and Ontario, also Brazil and Turkey and every country in the world. So what are some practical measures that you can do on your robotics team to contribute to this resilient, vibrant global community? Thinking locally, or thinking globally rather, but acting locally, recognizing you can't just sort of jet off to some country somewhere else every day, but you can do some amazing things here and take advantage of available technologies and relationships to do incredible things. So I'd like maybe 3 or 4 of you at a time to devise a team plan for this year's FRC season. And we can imagine that all of you are on the same team, even though you're sharing many team members in your teams, or you represent many teams. Let's come up with a plan for building vibrant communities based on all that we've seen today so far. And we'll give you about 10 or 15 minutes to do that. I'd love to hear some of the discussions. And then we'll just hear from you and we'll probably be ready to carry out what we learned today at the 2056 Ways to Inspire conference into our own robotics teams and communities. So how can we organize into 3 or 4 little working groups? It could start with the tables you're at, and maybe a few tables could join together. Yeah.
I think probably need to be shown.
I took the train.
It would be.
That'll be the same.
Co-create.
Oh, where you I think it's good to be able to get together with other mentors. This is one of the best.
Oh, yeah, it's
Like,
I'm noticing with
find
other
those things that you think
we keep
work
losing more and more
with your
teams.
team. You're like, oh, no, another team's up with the exact same problem. This is,
Yeah.
you know, if you're not.
For now,
As a team,
maybe a few.
you're sharing best
Yes, there are
practices
very
or
good things being taken out. I think part of it has a lot to do with that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Your team started
Here,
so
work.
and yet when you get to build season, it's like it's such a busy company.
Yes.
There's so many on the same team, let alone the other state.
So maybe a
And you
small
get
piece
so
of it is maybe
focused on your own.
It's also substitution where it's
Trying to
almost
get
like the
everyone.
opportunities are just
materials.
we've
So it's good.
Saying
other stuff that has important, for
It
those,
remind me how
Really
good
focus
when you touch the right chords and the right
it's really encouraging.
Because that's.
Yeah.
it does.
Yeah, so that's what comes to my mind.
There was one of my socials that is in downtown Toronto. It's incredibly hard to park at. So I think it's accessible.
Trying to find someone, you know, I know that.
Just because like,
Whatever they need.
I always think about Rollins.
That's down in the community, whether or not.
Really? Yeah. Oh, wow. Like, they're-
A dental
It takes like
office.
3 hours to get plus traffic. Yeah, yeah, they're on the 401, depending on the time of day. So they were here last night. They booked an Airbnb.
Sure, they get their meetings back.
No, we are.
I guess for like
And
so
we-
for ways to
provide
provide
the-
eventually having partnership with a larger Canadian companies that are innovators and stuff like that and trying to build a partnership with them to do co-ops and different opportunities.
Is there one of
to
those
get those ideas of what the students are capable of.
Government dynamics.
Resources,
A lot of
they
turnover, hire a lot of
steer box, spare. I think of that kind of shit. Yeah.
All of Canada.
Our job,
I feel like with companies that want to, they're doing money into that part to Canada.
everyone
Oh, yeah.
lifting each other up at the same time.
Less investment share.
I'm surprised there's like Slack kind of role.
It's a Slack.
Yeah.
So our version includes all of the, we have official first announcements, so usually around event selection.
No, that's,
You basically need like the framework of the NDP stadium. Because a lot of it is like.
Great, I started planning to go to that. So,
Yeah, reach out to all your mentors and go.
and that's a little, that's not true, that's called.
No,
Or are you still closer to the
Yes, yes. Who's that? I mean, maybe already.
And that's how we feel with provincials being Niagara Falls. It's great for us. There somewhere.
Yeah.
that's like what it was like in Hamilton.
But Hamilton was awesome.
See, for my Howard, yeah.
No, it's like I had to ride grapple up there.
That's your,
Parking.
yeah.
Parking
Yeah.
are annoying, but if you showed up early,
Yeah.
but information like that doesn't get to all the mentors.
So where companies are self-employed teams are, so there's.
Oh, yeah.
I'll note if the East End region.
If there's like casual, like with a stack
and they
more casual conversations.
There's a bit of a geographic. Or so we're middle to fast. Like for me, like I'm, I'm wearing like a shirt with like all my. So almost like that could be something. So I'm middle to fast. Yeah. So like, you start like almost like we're already there.
Companies like that.
They have a strong base.
Yeah, they have a huge lot of teams, but sometimes you don't have
I
time.
kind of think a lot of TDSB teams are going under, not just mentors,
But
Or-
or should we use that as one of the highest.
a lot of TDSB teams I know, funding is also an issue in addition to mentors. Yeah,
I feel like they're on schools.
As you mentioned, it's here now.
There's a lot of companies and
But I can't think we can imagine very easily.
banks are doing this pipeline.
That's in Ontario. That, as you said, our roadblocks with sort of community, the politics are gridlocked. And meeting the private sector is so interesting.
Yes.
So when you have all of that, and I also think that you can easily feel like this.
It would also be great to see
I can understand how nutrition feels, that you can't make a lot of changes.
How's that work?
For us.
So they have an official recognized registry.
Made changes, but honestly, it was only a catalyst, because we made it.
They're, I think they still refer to
So-
it.
Came there
No,
because
because you're part of 7902.
Exclusively.
Would 7902
friend
need
from
to rent
school,
space
older
in
brother
high
was
school?
already at Runnymede Collegiate and brought robotics.
Really? So what are they
So
doing?
we're
They're
not
exactly
community group, renting school in a school, they're renting a school group in a school.
It's the natural
Tons of outreach.
because my son
Yeah, that's
Yes, we just did it.
Yeah.
with
Oh,
him,
high school.
then we just like, oh,
We found out.
we're what they call.
Yeah,
I'm a
Power.
community.
from-
Yeah,
So
it's completely
if we were-
community.
Outside the boundaries
Is
of
what
whatever they
Yeah,
have.
so
and those mentors.
So I'm not
From
as
that.
familiar.
Yeah.
Kind of like a mentor trainer.
That area.
Because
is
it's usually a profit building.
These would be there.
It's like, this is not for-
Eugene Porter.
But for schools meeting, or
Even
doing
further
open houses
afield,
for.
I'm not-
He's a big-
Or I guess the other thing
As
is,
he's
instead of finding companies,
aging out of the
maybe we could try to make like a grant or something where they have like maybe $10,000 every year set aside or something. And then
So right
any
now-
first alum
So
that
if we could get
graduated
that
that has like an idea of potentially have
I know that I-
try maybe
So
like
that's
to get like a little bit of that funding to help you that could leverage different first alums that have gotten help from some of their mentors that had Kickstarter something and they've gone through some pretty universities. So if they had some kind of fund to empower students that graduate from programs to make the change or be the change that they want to do, be the change that they want. And that'd be a great way to help.
We could do.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh, they didn't have much Mars.
Or we do like those at-home challenges where.
But it's not bad.
Okay, here's a set of.
The reason I brought it up is that's how 1114 still exists as a group. because they are not
One individual
city
thing I
robotics.
share.
It's conserved, technically and legally, they are guarded city robotics and not for profit.
Yeah.
It happens to
Because that's what
operate
it when.
in the school and rent its own space from its own school and give the school recognition.
Like, if we're looking at.
But that's not all.
Because that gets it out of our system, is we don't feel the need to intrude on the guidelines.
Yeah.
I find that if you.
They had to do it as something, I think they were.
You do a silly side quest, you do like a.
Like the main teacher.
Yeah.
He was just gonna get right out,
Silly
and he had it in every single meeting, and he could do it.
Yeah.
So now, he's there to do the administration, he shows up at his honey or his few meetings as he likes, and the team operates regardless. And the school is afforded a chance to be part of the team, not the other way around.
This one guy.
It is afforded
Just
just
like,
to-
yeah, it's like, okay, give me his own robot, separate from high school. Yeah, that's
Really?
that's a great idea.
So that frees up a lot of funds to get in sports. There's so much funding in football, but it's really in robotics.
Combat robotics feels very different, but it is usually the same people, which is.
$10,000.
Excellent.
And they operate in the school, for the school. It's like a technical
Well,
community.
we
Somebody told me
capacity or even the idea for that.
You don't know what that team culture
It'd be interesting to know how is it operating inside a school, do you encounter challenges with the regulations or the. Yeah.
Especially
Ball
for
better.
sometimes.
Yeah.
But every single thing, you gotta try this here again, they're earnest about it, but we tried this, and it's not working, we tried this, and it's working.
They tolerate it,
Oh,
they
no.
don't.
Yeah.
So, very lucky that we went to the first 2 weeks and then the season right after.
On the Ministry of Education, oh yeah. I forgot his name, there have been 4 since I started. Yeah.
At least they still have.
It already happened in Tim's Valley. Yeah, trustees
I know a lot of our alumni, here we just had the alumni that graduated in 2020, only a few of them have graduated now. So they're very thankful, but there are teams that have been going for 20 years, what are their alumni?
Yeah.
Externally, teams that have been, that are 20, 30 years old, they're members of
You call them commission.
And I think it's a reason enough to say that your top managers or your company are.
And it's not.
Sample one.
Yeah, so.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I guarantee within a certain.
Oops, which is, yeah, carrying out the wishes of the High Commissioner of Education.
Exactly. So the
Just recently, in-season robots.
Something.
We've had mentors who,
Or improve on that.
They actually do
We just, like, kids,
Yeah, there you go.
in
One week.
one day. And then what we're gonna try this year is we're gonna try
This was in their final year last
to kick autonomy on Swerve
Grade 9 to
and
12.
then make
So all they
modifications
did
of it too.
robotics, but that time
So
and then
fingers
also-
crossed we have functional
So for the
second
grade
Swerve
12,
by
they
then.
have
You go to Kickoff first, is that-
diversity.
Yeah, so
that's just when you go from.
We did a live stream during the
There's so much
because
bureaucracy
regulation.
I see that in some schools,
So we had a live audience.
are you actually over there just to be a mentor for,
Have more students in
but.
So like, we're like, okay, we'll try to drop the live stream, can you come into the chat Star Wars?
Yeah, so we kind of just.
Whatever they ask.
First nice every once in a while,
Still
but
did
it's
this
not allowed to school.
So
yet again,
Just because one of the issues is the province of practice.
I don't speak with ministry, like they can't fire anyone.
Schools basically. Day two interactions they have. Which is great.
If they didn't have any other school, they have to get this one.
But it is, okay, well, here's, like, the worst we could do is just.
So dear robotics community of Ontario and beyond. And I've seen 3 great discussions unfolding here. I'd love to hear. Never know what's going to happen. I'd love to hear each of the team's strategic plan to build a vibrant community. Any intrepid team that will volunteer to share first? Oh,
One,
okay, 1, 2, 3.
one thing that I was explaining to them, and you were kind of part of this initiative at some point in 2 years ago, I think, with Henry, was in the States and kind of across even most countries, sports are such a big, like the governments tend to support sports a lot and funding goes into there. That meant here in Canada, we send 25 teams up to World Championships, and it's always to the cost of each of those teams. And why is it that a team from, let's say, like a really good like football team, for example, can go to the States if they want to with support easily from the government. Meanwhile, they have 25 teams and it costs thousands of dollars to get them down there. So why can't a similar grant be provided to first Canadian teams? And it served as a good like representation of, hey, Canada's going down there representing Canada. And the median, someone told me the stat of the median team in Ontario was like top 5% or 10% worldwide for first. So it's a good set of representation. So some initiative like that would be a good global affecting and also like improving for the local.
Thank you. And
So another one we kind of talked about is trying to, because it seems like First Canada is pretty well sponsored by a lot of the major companies and stuff in the Canadian sector for the most part. So a thing that we were thinking of is, since a lot of that has already been tapped into, we almost want to be trying to develop the next generation of students that kind of come up with the next big idea to try helping change the world. So a potential solution to that could be is if First is able to maybe have like some kind of grant for any alumni that has graduated from the program for a certain number of years. It could even just be one, that there's maybe like a yearly thing where all these different alumni come and pitch like their big idea. And then maybe First is able to kind of help give them like a little bit of a grant to kind of start that company. Because I've heard like there's been quite a few different companies that have been started by First alumni and they've gone to do some pretty amazing things. So if they had some kind of way to get that going, where they might not always have the support from mentors to potentially help fund that. Some people are lucky enough, but others might not be. So if they had like a way to kind of pitch their idea and then have maybe like a group of mentors and people from different industries come in and then they take like a vote and say that, oh, this seems like a great idea to maybe help pursue, and then they get like a little grant to kind of start it up or something.
Thank you so much to the team over on this side of the room. And are there any more comments? Otherwise, we can go to the back of the room.
Sure, yeah. So a couple of ideas were floating around. We were talking about ways to get the mentors on the same page, communication, resources, stuff like that. And we came up with, I think, 2 fairly viable options that don't require significant investment. The first one is a mentor conference in Canada, whether centralized or decentralized virtually, as well as more casual conversation style communication.
communication methods between all the mentors in Ontario. The Slack channel is really good for formal business-related inquiries, like when events can happen, where's the team documents, how much is registration this year? But having such a good example with the youth team mentors and students with this sort of Discord channel where they can voice call with each other and socialize, there should be a mentor equivalent, and it will allow us to be on the same page, ask for advice, check in with stock, like, oh, hey, Laszlo, do you have Falcon I can borrow just for a weekend, I'll get it back to you in time for Waterloo. Don't worry. Having that sort of capability of hub teams that are willing to run hearts would be a great expansion to the mentor hubs that we already have. We've got great mentors here in Ontario. The other one we were talking about, we were just sort of wrapping up the discussion, was having a university league of RI3D teams. Because we've got a few, but they're not organized, centralized, or communicate between each other. And most of them aren't recognized by Fiber Robotics Network, which is usually the team that dubs what is a robot in 3 days. So it'd be great to have university mentorship clubs similar to the Western Engineering Method or the Wellington Method of recruiting from universities, alumni, or interested persons, getting them to build the robot in 3 days, even if it's just a kit bot, and then bringing in students from the local areas to either work with the RI3D team or produce resources from that RI3D team that then get distributed. And it also gives those mentors a creative outlet where they're not going to butt in on student ideas in season because they've already had their chance at building the Reefscape robot or the first Age robot.
Thank you. And are there any more comments from this group? We had quite a conversation in all three groups. Finished up with this group and
in terms of plans, we haven't really gotten up to it in this discussion, but it's interesting that personally I worked on a project that does a lot of what was been asked of us. We spoke a lot of the barriers to community building, and we mentioned like the school administrations and sometimes there's no political movement when you want there to be, or even sometimes difficult to get the private sector to be interested in this. And it's all necessary if you want to bring the community or have those kind of initiatives happen. So as I mentioned earlier, when I spoken about the momentum in Montreal North, the director of cultural and sports asked me to meet him, so I prepared something to show him. So this is what I prepared. So it's basically a community system for teams to exist for first, but having an approach that does bring the community together. So having first teams would be one aspect of it. So having them be able to register like you would a karate team or swimming team or whatever through the municipal ways, but also having that's maybe a dream part, but having a Fab Lab, having a collaborative space so that the community can also go, the youth, the adults, and also offer services, offer training for interested adults. I went through the whole booklet of cultural offers in Mike Morrow to kind of match all the kind of offers that they have so that this project can also have every kind of offer. So we can't do spectacles, or we don't have a theater, but we can organize a public FTC meet. So that's in there. Have summer camps. There's always a lot of interest for summer camps. A lot of what Waterloo Wellington as well is doing with the libraries, with the kids and everything, activities like that. And after meeting with the director of the Chamber of Commerce, she said that there could be more collaboration if there is something for the companies. So what I developed was for the Fab Lab to also be a space where startups and young entrepreneurs can prototype some products
Oh,
So that would be something also open for them. So that's just more avenues. So if you have local teams, a Fab Lab that serves multiple purposes to justify the need to have a space and tools, as well as offering activities to the youth in the libraries, summer camps, that would justify having a space open throughout the year, pretty much every day, if you have multiple teams that occupy the space. And yeah, so really building that ideas, I had to go through the Chamber of Commerce, to other teams, speaking with schools, knowing that there's a challenge, but still trying to make it happen in a certain neighborhood as well.
wow.
So I think that kind of brings together what we were talking about in this presentation.
Would you mind if I contact you after? I think there's such a valuable lesson for Ontario we can learn here to keep things going.
Yep, and I'll know in a few weeks
Yeah.
how it goes, because for me, it's also a personal significant project.
Oh, yeah,
So
that's
to
huge.
expand.
That's historic.
It would,
Yes.
I hope it works.
Amazing. Transcendence or vision?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I wanted to say earlier, but you have to it's almost like you have to propose to change the world.
Yeah.
That's the kind of vision you need to actually bring everyone with you.
Or you have to be wise about it. Don't be too loud, just loud enough to get through.
Exactly.
Oh, my. Thank you so much. I hope that through the collaboration here, you have a few new ideas and inspirations, 2,056 of them or so, to be able to carry to your communities, to your teams, to move to the next chapter in the unfoldment of the first robotics competition. And we will see there will be crises and there will be victories as we have economic upheavals. But all of these concepts and anecdotes that we've shared today show that we have the capability of a community, as a community, of supporting continued growth, even though we go through these challenges. So I'm really hoping that the school you were mentioning will continue forward, unhindered by any red tape in its way. And so with all the other teams in the province. I'll just finish off with the societal level capabilities that were developed by our group in Bolivia that may have tied in with this conversation. That's why I didn't share them until now, and see if any of these resonate with anyone. So building something we call unity and diversity. If we don't have unity and diversity in this community, I don't know where we have it, because we have been able to bring in such a wide variety of people, not only in local terms, but in the entire world. Over 100 and something countries are participating first rapidly, hopefully encompassing the entire world. Committing oneself to empowering educational activities as a student, and as a teacher, as a mentor, yes. Recognizing relationships of domination and contributing to transformation into relationships based on interconnectedness. This is a huge theme in bureaucratic systems. And we have to find ways to help to transform a kind of a gatekeeping system or domination of people's wherewithal to something that connects everyone. Contributing to the establishment of justice, serving in societal institutions so as to facilitate the expression of the talents of others that are affected by these institutions. Oh, we have a few people that are working in school boards now. That's good. And being a responsible and loving family member as a child, spouse, or parent. That's a good one to end on, as we want to sacrifice, but we do not sacrifice to the detriment of ourselves and our community, only to the benefit of all. There's some kind of magic balance, and it's hard to achieve. Wow, it's been such a great pleasure being with you here today and during the entire day in various sessions, and thank you very much for everyone's participation.